Hey YouTube, I just wanted to do a brief video about the Electoral College. Now, I see a number of people, they'll come out and they'll say in defense of the Electoral College that it's because we have, look at the counties that voted for Clinton versus the counties that voted for Trump, and how much redder the United States looks whenever you look at the map and all this other stuff. And that's partially why we have the Electoral College. It's part of it. A much bigger part of it was because our founding fathers didn't trust a direct democracy. That's why our country is a republic, not a democracy. It's a democratic republic, certainly, but it's a republic nonetheless. Now, whenever I say they didn't trust a direct democracy, what I mean is they believed that if the majority ruled to do things like remove freedoms or do things that would hurt a large percentage of the country, that shouldn't be allowed, and that's why we have the Electoral College. Let's see. When U.S. citizens go to the polls to elect a president, they are in fact voting for a particular slate of electors. In every state but Maine and Nebraska, the candidate who wins the most votes, that is, a plurality, in the state receives all of the state's electoral votes. The number of electors in each state is the sum of its U.S. senators and its U.S. representatives. Now, what this means is you're not actually voting for the president whenever you vote. You don't get a direct say in who gets to be president or not. You're basically telling the electors of each state, this is who I want. This is who I want you to vote for to lead my nation. They can choose to acquiesce. They can choose to not acquiesce. Is that a smudge on me? Ah, that's light. That's light. Wonderful. I'm going to move over here. Yeah, there we go. It's basically just saying, I want this dude to be president, or I want this chick to be president, or whatever. And then the electors get to choose whether or not to listen to the people. Now, choosing whether or not to listen to the people should fall under a certain set of criteria. The biggest set of criteria, the biggest thing is this president, is this person good enough to lead the nation? Does this person live by the American value system that we have here? Does this person wish to maintain freedoms? That's the biggest thing, is does this person want to maintain the country's freedoms? This is a country built upon the idea of freedoms, built upon the idea of there are inalienable human rights that we have outlined in the Bill of Rights, that if you are a member of this nation, you will have these rights, period, unless you do something to fuck over society, such as felonies. Then you can lose rights, and only then can you lose rights. The reason that the Constitution calls for this extra layer, rather than just providing for the direct election of the president, is that most of the nation's founders were actually rather afraid of democracy. Again, a direct democracy is, well, basically rule by the many. It's mob rule, which we see now. We see mobs of people that are bossing everybody around. And they're not going to be able to get what they want out of that, because that's not how our country is set up. James Madison worried about what he called factions, which he defined as groups of citizens who have a common interest in some proposal that would either violate the rights of other citizens or would harm the nation as a whole. This goes right back to what I was talking about. Our founding fathers and the people who set up this country and set the groundwork for it were afraid of people who would remove individual rights. That is what the Electoral College was set up to prevent. Donald Trump is not going to remove individual rights. He's pro-Second Amendment. One of his biggest criteria for the new judge, Supreme Court justice. Yes, one of the biggest criteria is has to love the Second Amendment. Has to be pro Second Amendment, and that's huge. That's huge. Hillary would have almost certainly put in, even Bernie would have also almost certainly put someone in who's anti-Second Amendment, because they were both anti-Second Amendment. They wanted to remove the ability of the American people to be able to purchase assault rifles, to be able to purchase basically anything but pistols. Even though pistols actually kill the most people by a very wide margin. But pistol doesn't sound scary. I've got a 12 gauge shotgun that's considered an assault weapon because it has a collapsible stock and a pistol grip. Yeah, okay. Oh shit. Yeah, but again, this just falls right back into it. They're afraid of a democracy because a direct democracy can mean the removal of rights of the people. This is why we have the Electoral College. So that we can ensure that the rights of the people will be protected, period. Madison's fear, which Alexis de Tocqueville later dubbed the tyranny of the majority. I don't even need to say anything about that. People in this sort of community that we're a part of, we see this all the time, every day. Where we see SJWs go out and they riot. We see Black Lives Matter go out and they riot police shooting criminals. And this is tyranny of the majority. We see the mainstream media just feeding into these narratives. This is tyranny of the majority. This is the thing that they feared. This is why we live in a republic and not a direct democracy. Because of this. Because of the things that we're seeing that are happening right now. This is why we need to fight to protect these insurances of our democracy and of our freedoms. This is why we need to fight these things. As Alexander Hamilton writes in the Federalist Papers, the Constitution is designed to ensure that the office of president will never fall to the lot of any man who is not in an eminent degree endowed with the requisite qualifications. The point of the Electoral College is to preserve the sense of the people, while at the same time ensuring that a president is chosen by men most capable of analyzing the qualities adapted to the situation and acting under circumstances favorable to deliberation and to a judicious combination of all the reasons and inducements which were proper to govern their choice. Again, make sure he knows what the fuck he's talking about, and at the same time listen to the people. What do the people want, and is this person capable of doing that in a proper presidential manner? We have a president-elect who shitposts on Twitter and at the same time recognizes Taiwan. Who is willing to show Russia, a country that was on the verge of nuclear war with us, probably NATO, because NATO's currently surrounding them, but Crimea was wrong, even though Russia's currently being surrounded by people that consider it an enemy, so it captured a strategic military port, but they're wrong somehow for defending their nation in an adequate and proper manner. Not really sure how to follow that logic, but okay. He's willing to show Russia a modicum of respect, and he's already just the TPP is done. It's done. He was put president-elect. Boom. TPP is done. Enforcement of the laws of this nation, removal of illegal immigrants, specifically ones that have committed crimes within our own nation. You are not a citizen here. You are going to come into our country and commit crimes here and then expect us to harbor you and be okay with you being here? I don't think so. Fuck you. Go back to your fucked up country. I don't care. No, yeah. We trained some of the cartel members that are currently in power in Mexico. Let us go there and fuck them up. Just let us go in there, remove them from power, just straight up gib them, fucking shank them. I don't care. They haven't let us do that, though. They don't even let us prosecute. They don't even let us prosecute them whenever they've been committing crimes that aren't. They don't let us do that. And they go into prisons within Mexico that are run by the cartels and have escape routes, so then they escape. How are you trying to fix your own shit? In modern practice, the Electoral College is mostly a formality. Most electors are loyal members of the party that has selected them, and in 26 states plus Washington, D.C., electors are bound by laws or party pledges to vote in accord with the popular vote. Although an elector could, in principle, change his or her vote, and a few actually have over the years, doing so is rare. This is basically the electors listen to the people. Makes sense. As the 2000 election reminds us, the Electoral College does make it possible for a candidate to win the popular vote and still not become president. But that is less a product of the Electoral College and more a product of the way states apportion electors. In every state but Maine and Nebraska, electors are awarded on a winner-take-all basis. So if a candidate wins a state by even a narrow margin, he or she wins all the state's elector votes. That basically means that if you win the state, all of the electors within that state are going to be affiliated with that party unless you're a part of Maine or Nebraska. The Electoral College was not the only constitutional limitation on direct democracy, though we have discarded most of those limitations. Senators were initially to be appointed by state legislatures, and states were permitted to ban women from voting entirely. Slaves got an even worse deal, as a slave officially was counted as just 3/5 of a person. The 14th Amendment abolished the 3/5 rule and granted male former slaves the right to vote. The 17th Amendment made senators subject to direct election, and the 19th Amendment gave women the right to vote. That's basically just us being like, okay, everyone gets the same fucking slate. And everyone gets the same slate, and we directly elect our senators, which could be good, which could be bad. Again, overall, the Electoral College was set up to protect our freedoms, to protect the people of this nation from mob rule, tyrannical rule. The current establishment that we have is a tyrannical rule. If they don't listen to what the people wanted, then that part of our democracy has actually failed. Whenever our elected officials stop listening to the people and what they want, and stop pushing what the people want, and stop trying to do things for the people and for the benefit of the people, then we have failed to elect proper individuals, and we have failed to hold them accountable. And we need to change that. We need to get rid of people that are no longer listening to us. We need to make it so they have to listen to us. And if they don't, they need to be afraid. Very, very afraid for their jobs. Well, I think that's going to be the end of the video. I just wanted to make a little spiel about the Electoral College and my defense of it. Have a good one.